Net zero is a fallacy, an impossible dream. What the government and climate change fanatics like Ed Miliband can't or won't comprehend is that we do not have our own little UK-shaped patch of atmospheric CO2 hanging over our heads. That no matter what we do to reduce CO2 emissions, we could never achieve net zero in a gazillion years, since atmospheric CO2 covers the entire world. Net zero is such an unachievable goal, Miliband would have more chance of knitting a cardigan out of fog. Welcome to the crazy world of Miliband's climate change, net zero claptrap. Did you know that it is incumbent upon the elected government to first solicit the consent and full support of the electorate via a referendum vote prior to instigating any unprecedented law that is likely to cause a serious, dangerous, financial and detrimental impact on the lives and livelihoods of the British population? In view of this, governments and their leaders have an ethical duty to prepare and publish a comprehensive impact statement for the perusal of the UK electorate, informing them of all potential dangers to life, health, and the clear possibility of the severe financial pitfalls associated with their climate change net zero agenda. We live in a democratic country. Implementing climate change and net zero laws without providing any justifiable cause and without securing the full sovereign consent of the electorate is undemocratic and, more importantly, illegal. To date, the Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change of the United Kingdom, Ed Miliband, has pushed arrogantly on with his net zero climate change plans, whilst at the same time failing to prepare a comprehensive impact statement or make any attempt to inform, and thus solicit, the consent of the sovereign British people he serves regarding his unscientific net zero climate change claptrap.
Right, we come to the first statement, Secretary of State for Energy and Climate, net zero. Ed Miliband.
Thank you, Speaker. With permission, I would like to make a statement about the climate and nature crisis. On the day the Met Office publishes its State of the UK Climate Report 2024, the Environment Secretary and I want to share with the British people what we know about the scale of the crisis and explain the action we're taking in response. We intend this to become an annual statement to Parliament. Let me start by setting out what we know from the science. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the last decade has seen the 10 warmest years on record globally.
As Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change of the United Kingdom, these are things that Miliband should know, but clearly does not. The reality of his deluded and fanatical net zero climate change agenda is that it is actually based unreservedly on mathematical worst-case scenario computer models and not in any way, shape or form on any scientifically proven or provable peer-reviewed facts. By far the most damning confirmation that emphatically proves the climate change lie is that in 1989 we were strongly warned by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that according to their worst-case scenario computer models, unless we reduced the levels of CO2 in our atmosphere, we would experience global warming on a scale never before seen. They further warned that we only had 10 years to save the planet from annihilation. That, if we didn't heed their grim warning and act upon it, temperatures would increase exponentially, causing global warming. The ice caps would melt, causing the oceans to rise, and whole islands and coastal towns would disappear under the waves, and tens of millions of people would drown, whilst countless others would die of thirst and hunger as whole countries would be turned into virtual deserts. Well, guess what, Mr. Miliband? 1999 came and went, and none of their worst-case scenario computer model predictions ever came true. It's now been 35 years since the dire scaremongering warning of the IPCC, and still not one of their terrifying predictions have come true. Perhaps, Mr. Miliband, you could produce a proven scientific explanation as to why that is, before you spend any more of our money chasing a clearly fabricated and maniacal net zero fantasy.
And Britain has become one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world.
As Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change of the United Kingdom, these are the things Miliband should know regarding the actual science of CO2, but clearly doesn't. Let's begin with the known scientific specifics relating to carbon dioxide, aka CO2. 1. CO2 has been present in Earth's atmosphere for billions of years. Over that period of time, it has been an abiding and essential constant in the atmosphere. As planet Earth, and many of its myriad diverse living plants and creatures, including humans, have survived and continue to thrive to this day, it must be a biological and scientific certainty to anyone with a brain that CO2 is not at all lethal or dangerous to life or the environment. Let's face it, if CO2 was lethal, Earth would have been a lifeless planet for countless years. But it's not. So how lucky for us that CO2 is a natural and indispensable compound, vital to preserving the life and well-being of every type of Earth's flora and fauna, isn't it? 2. The importance of CO2 must never be underestimated. Interfering with nature by intentionally reducing carbon via hugely expensive artificial carbon capture facilities, or your deranged suicidal plan to reduce carbon by blocking the life-giving sun, is unquestionably dangerous. The unknown consequences of such acts could well be catastrophic and irreversible. In the long term, artificially lessening carbon could well result in levels of CO2 dropping to 0.02%, resulting in every living thing on the planet slowly suffocating and dying, including we humans. 3. To date, there has been no published peer-reviewed scientific evidence that can unequivocally prove there is a global warming climate change emergency, allegedly caused by the rise in man-made CO2. Let's face it, if there was any published peer-reviewed scientific evidence, you'd be avidly reading that to Parliament, instead of spouting your usual meaningless, unscientific blah 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 nonsense. 4. The unassailable truth is that CO2 is not, in any way, shape or form, causing a climate change emergency. It is in fact causing the necessary regreening of the planet in order to repair the terrible decimation of the rainforests. From time immemorial, trees have been the lungs of the earth. They are natural biological carbon capture machines that absorb tons of CO2 and then release the oxygen we breathe as a byproduct. It is the tragic loss of the millions of cut-down trees that has caused the rise in CO2 because there are less trees to absorb it. The solution? Instead of whittling £9+ billion down the toilet to create senseless carbon capture facilities, why not go down the simpler and cheaper biological route by planting more carbon capture trees in industrial areas and allow nature to take its course? Then CO2 will eventually return to natural levels and the balance of the Earth will be restored. That's the real science. Not the insane net zero pseudo-scientific climate change claptrap that deranged fanatics like you are attempting to brainwash us with.
We remain way off track from where we need to be as a world, but we in this country have helped make a difference across parties. In 2008, this House came together to pass the world's first climate change act under a Labour government supported by Lord Cameron and the Conservative Party and parties across this House. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the power of our example, now nearly 60 countries in the world have similar legislation. In 2019, under Baroness May, the UK became the first major economy to legislate for net zero by 2050, supported by the Labour Party and parties across this House.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The statement from the Energy Secretary sounded like a desperate attempt to save his own job. But he's right, the British people do need protecting. They need protecting from the Energy Secretary, because businesses that I visit every single week say that his madcap ideas are killing growth, killing business and killing jobs. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt if he can answer one simple question which he's already refused to answer. By how much will the Earth's temperature be reduced by if the UK became net zero tomorrow? Simple question.
And the answer, which he just doesn't want to accept, is this. If he just listens, the answer is this: I believe in British leadership. I believe in Britain's ability to make a difference. And the truth is, when we, as I said in my statement, when we passed the Climate Change Act, 60 countries followed. When we legislated for net zero, many other countries followed. He talks Britain down. I believe in Britain.
Ed Miliband, in my personal opinion, is a contemptible liar, hypocrite and fraud, who cares nothing for the people of this country. As Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change, and a servant of the people, it is his job to keep the electorate informed by producing proven, peer-reviewed scientific evidence that demonstrates beyond any reasonable doubt that climate change is a reality. But instead, he continuously refuses point-blank to answer any simple and perfectly legitimate climate change questions from anyone, including his parliamentary peers, choosing instead to ignore the question and answer with unrelated hogwash. His witless hypocrisy is legendary, making parliamentary speeches about the importance of reducing CO2 to achieve net zero by 2050, before flying off around the world in carbon-spreading jet aeroplanes, visiting various countries, happily spreading his personal size 9 carbon footprints, and then laughably giving speeches to other carbon-spreading heads of states about the importance of reducing CO2 to achieve net zero by 2050. Furthermore, because of his total lack of knowledge, he is continuously compelled to rely on and read from a bullshit script, written and provided to him by questionable weather-related government-funded sources, when addressing Parliament. His irrational obsession with climate change and net zero, a subject with which he clearly has no comprehension whatsoever, is truly disturbing. In fact, as Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change, his dire lack of scientific knowledge is unacceptable and clearly proves, quite frankly, that he is not up to the job and should resign. This channel is not monetized because I believe well-researched information that can open eyes to the truth should be given freely. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like it, please consider liking and subscribing. Many thanks, and I hope you come and visit my channel again very soon.